So the last Sunday of the month from 6 to 8 p.m. So the last Sunday of the month from 6 o'clock to 8 is what we were thinking about doing for leaders meeting. So, and then maybe twice a year, instead of having a leaders meeting, we would have maybe like a one-day event or maybe a retreat, depending on what we can come up with. It all depends on what kind of money we can come up with to do it. So we can get ideas for that. So here's what I want to do. So just to kind of talk about that to see how it works for everybody, if you could just kind of select somebody to be your leader and just kind of talk at the table and write down a couple ideas that you had for maybe a retreat or a one-day thing or activity that you guys might want to do. Just kind of talk through that as a table, and then we'll come back together and hear your ideas. How about that? Does that make sense? You got your table? Okay, well, let's hear the ideas first. Go ahead, Marie. Okay. Yep, that was a question. Okay. Oh, nice. Okay, very good. And you got that all written down on the sheet? Okay, great. Oh, you're writing it down. You're writing it down. Sorry, Sandy, I'm ADD tonight. Sorry. I'm ADD every day, but this is even worse today. Thank you very much. Okay. Who's the leader here? A default. I don't know if the leader means you are the leader or just the other leaders ganged up on you and said, you're going to do this. Okay, gotcha.
Okay, we also decided last Sunday of the month, 6 to 8 p.m. meeting was fine. Our idea was having one in spring, one in fall. Like we even have a date, April 21st for spring, September 15th for fall. So we couldn't figure out whether it was just for the work or fun or it's a combining work and fun. So we had come up with maybe we can rent Roofing Club in Windsor, or going to bowling, or we're going to firing range to the skeet shooting.
To shoot me? Or just to, okay, I got you, to shoot guns. I got you.
And we go to Top Golf. So there's a few ideas that we came out.
Good.
So that's all we got.
That's good. Super good. As long as you don't shoot me, I'm good with that. Yep. Who's that, Sandy? You want to give her the mic? Or you don't want the mic? They can hear you. Just talk loud. They can hear you online. If not, Sandy didn't want the mic. Can I hear you now?
With the last Sunday of the month.
Okay.
Time frame works well.
Nice.
We got very focused on a topic
Okay.
for our leaders, training or whatever you want to call it. Spent a lot of time there, and that was about reminding leaders or helping leaders recognize how to reach people, how to recognize people here on Sunday. I shared about the pastor breakfast table that we have the same person that opens the door at that table so they can see if somebody new comes in. But we kind of talked about it being in the sanctuary, what leaders should be looking for in those focus areas.
That's good.
And then taking that back to your group so we can expand who's doing that on Sunday. I wasn't the one that led that. It came from someone else at the table. And it just
Rick Pennington, I take it.
very something we'd like to talk about if we do that.
Awesome.
Some of the fun things we talked about a baseball game. We should get a baseball game together. Since we also talked about not only doing things in the church but getting out in the community, we should go to our local sports, like a high school football game, something like that. We mentioned the 4-H club. We did have some of the others like bowling, top golf, a lot of ways, and we mentioned our favorite is eating. do a cookout, we could have some more Boston butt, cornhole, that type of thing.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. Now, you guys came up with a lot of good ideas. I wish I had thought of letting you guys talk before. This is a great idea, so I think that worked out pretty good. So, okay. So what I think we're going to do with that list is, because I know we're getting a late start into this year, and part of that is, just so you know, we're working through the budget, and that's a big piece of it. So we had an elders and advisory team meeting before. There's nothing wrong with the money. We're getting Start Church to kind of organize our books. So just so you guys know, Start Church is an organization that is the expert on church bookkeeping. And so they're taking our books and getting them straight. There's no mismanagement of funds. It's just getting things in the right order. Unfortunately, what that means is it's hard for us to budget money until we can get the accurate reports and all that. And so once we get that, we can start making decisions as far as all these things go. So what I'd like to do is take the list that you guys came up with and maybe consolidate it, and then maybe send it out in such a way that you guys can kind of say, hey, this is what we really want to do, and then we can start nailing down 2 dates that would work for us. Maybe the first one that doesn't cost so much money, and then the second one, if we can get money, we can plan for it, if that makes sense. So we'll get all that stuff approved for you. But anyway, thank you guys very much. That was awesome. The second thing I wanted to say is about this meeting, because I realized I didn't kind of explain what my thought was. So in the past, we were trying to do ministry leads one night and group leaders one night. And kind of the thought was, is as I looked around the room, I realized we have a lot of leaders wearing different hats. So when we talk about ministry leads and group leaders, a lot of people are wearing both hats or different things. So the thought was, hey, what if we brought together once a month, 6 to 8, for the first hour maybe we spend covering some church stuff. Tonight we're spending a little bit more time on it. We eat a meal together. We brief you on some things that are happening in the church that group leaders and ministry leads would need to know. And then we could break out into group leaders and ministry leads. That was kind of the plan. And if there's a night that we go, hey, we don't need the group leaders to meet or whatever, you guys can socialize or you can go home or whatever you want to do. And the ministry leads can meet on certain nights. And we won't do death by meeting, so if there's one week we don't need it, but I can almost guarantee you we're going to want to get together. If nothing else, we come together and pray, because, I mean, I think it's worth us gathering, okay? And I know last year we didn't do a lot of that, but this year we definitely plan on it. And that way we can just lock that down, and then we'll go from there. Does that sound good to everybody? You got a question? Yes, ma'am. We'll figure that out when it occurs, you know, because I know that's going to be part of it, but it could be we have to brief you on one part or the other. You know, I don't quite know how I'm going to cover that, but we'll figure it out. Any other questions? But I have thought of that, so that'll come. So right now it'll be together, which I think is good because we want to have one focus. So the next part that I want to do is I'll lecture for just a minute, and it won't really be a lecture. It's just kind of maybe a review, but it's something I've been working on. And what I'd really like you guys to do, and I asked the elders and advisory team to do the same, is to take the next page that says the New Branch vision chart. And what I'd like you to do is just look at it and just think about it and pray about it. But this is kind of, as the senior pastor, for me, you know, I believe that that's a part of who I'm supposed to be is bringing, you know, what I think the vision is for the church. So for me, it would look like this. However, I would like you guys' input on it. So in other words, I don't want you just to take the vision that I've come up with and say that's the completed package. But I want to give you an idea because I have a feeling if we start to think through this lens, we can start to really put things together. Because what we don't want to have happen, and I think this could be very problematic, is silos being formed, meaning that we have this ministry that takes on a life of its own. Because if it does and it's not fitting into the whole, eventually it becomes at odds with each other and the organization, it goes in all kinds of directions. That's not what we want. However, we want to be able to decentralize, and I think the best way to do that is to say, here's what we're trying to accomplish. It doesn't mean there's not other things to accomplish, but they could be done through other organizations, if that makes sense. So basically, the vision of New Branch Community Church is to connect to God, connect to each other, and connect others to God. That was kind of what we said in the very beginning. I had a very long worded vision statement. You know, we're a community of believers that gather to help unconnected people to connect to people that are all alone, in that kind of statement. And Eric Dingler said, can I have your vision statement when he started Coastal Community Church? And I said, sure. And then he consolidated it down to this, and I said, can I use your vision statement? Because it's the same. And so we just kind of used it together, which I thought was kind of cool. And I'm not so concerned about the wording, but the concept is there to say our job is to help unconnected people connect. And to put it in a statement to go, because I really believe you begin with the end in mind to say, what is it we want to do with these people that are unconnected? How do we do that? And at the very bottom, there's just a statement that says this: to move the unconnected from being unconnected to being fully devoted, fully functional followers of Jesus Christ. That's kind of how I worded it. And you guys can play with the wording and do whatever else you want, but that's kind of where we see it at, is to go, what is it we want to do with unconnected people? Well, we want them to connect to God, and we want them to connect to us. And most of the time, they start connecting to us first, and then to God. We help them. They see us first, and then they see God. And then we help them get in relationship with God, and by becoming a disciple of Christ or a follower of Jesus Christ. And so they become fully functional. So how does that actually work? Well, at the bottom of your chart where it says vision flow is where we want them to end up, which is in community group and serving. I know that might sound very simplistic, but that's the two areas that I see. If you're a real disciple of Christ, you're going to be living in community with other believers, where the other gifts, kind of like we talked about in the sermon this morning, where everybody's gifts and talents is helping each other. That we're not doing this alone. And that's really what community group is about, because otherwise you're a church of programs and policies. And what I found is that most things in life, the real big changes in life, occur in the course of a conversation, in the course of a community. And so our job is to move them into a community group so they got people that love them and care about them, and not just sitting in rows, but move them into community. The other thing would be is serving. And what that means is serving in the role that God has called them to be in. So not just, hey, I checked the box, I made a cup of coffee for somebody, but saying, hey, what is it that God has called you to do? And it's our job to help empower them and train them and equip them and point them in the right direction and say, hey, let us help you be able to serve in that niche. And if they're in a community group and they're serving, I think that's what really demonstrates a fully functional, fully devoted follower of Jesus Christ. Now maybe that's oversimplistic, but I think everything else is taken care of in that. Because are you giving money? Same thing. If you're in a community group and you're serving and you're doing what you're supposed to do, that's going to help with that. Because how are they going to learn to give? Community group. How are they going to learn to be a disciple? In community group. How are they going to learn the basics of the Christian faith? In community group. But serving means, hey, it's not just me taking in and what I get, it's giving back and giving it out. So that's kind of how I define it. I don't know if that makes sense. So the funnel then is to go, hey, we move from the invite. And how does that come? So at the beginning of our church, we said, hey, we're going to be a cell-based church, which meant we're just going to start with community group. We invite you to community group right away. You know what we found? People don't just go to community group right away. My vision wasn't to have the service be the first entry point. My goal was to say, hey, we're coming here, and what we're going to do is we're going to be a true cell-based church, which means our groups are praying for people, and you just invite people to group, and then you come to Sunday morning to gather the community groups. Well, we invited people to group, and you know where they came? Sunday morning service. And every church planner in the world told me, they said, well, that's the model in the United States of America, because people they're not as apt to go to somebody's home into a intimate setting with a bunch of people they don't know, right? Because they're not in relationship with these people. Different communities work differently. If you're over in Asia or in certain areas of the world, you would find they naturally fit that way. So they would go to the group before they would ever come to church. That's not how our culture works. They come to church first and then group, or at least that's been our experience so far. If it changes, we'll change our model. But so the first entry point now has been the church. So we had to rethink how we're doing this thing. Hey, the entry point is going to be very important. What we do in the service is going to be very important. We have to become very seeker sensitive, because we go in the first 3 minutes, we learn from 24 to double. In the first 3 minutes, they're going to decide whether they're even going to start through this funnel. So now we have to go, hey, we got to increase what we do in the programmatic part on Sunday morning to go, hey, but for what purpose? Not just to have a show, not just to have those things, but to say we want to get them into the funnel so that they can come down and go, hey, we got you in the community group, and we got you serving where you need to be. So the idea would be is, hey, here's the invite. Here's the service. That's the funnel. You may come up with other ones, and we won't take time tonight for this, but I want you to think about what are the other funnels? Where do other people come from? Instead of flowing through the service itself, is there other places people are flowing into? But from my experience and looking at the majority of people that come, the experience has been they come to the service and then they flow into the rest of the church, which is fine. I mean, that's a fine model, and that's what we've been putting our efforts in. If I'm seeing it wrong, then you guys can tell me. And then from there, we found we have to have some easy entry points. So the pastor's breakfast or the pastor's lunch or pastor's meal has worked out really well to go, hey, what do we do in that? We bring them in. We get them to connect to somebody. That's the only reason for the pastor's breakfast. The only reason why I have my name on it and we want to change that we can is because normally because I'm the mouth, they see me first. They hear me first. And then after they go, oh, I'd like to meet with him because I've seen him, we get them here and we immediately get them connected to somebody else. Because if the connection's with me, I'm going to disappoint them because, 200 people, you're not going to be in a relationship with them. But they can look for that one person. So we almost have a one-on-one correspondence in the pastor's breakfast. We explain a little bit about the church. We eat a meal together. They meet with somebody. They fill out a sheet. That's the extent of it. And then we move them into the 2 classes that we have. We scaled it down to 2. We used to have Discover New Branch, but we found it to be a little bit redundant. And so now we're going, hey, let's put our efforts into 2 classes, Discover Community, which means community group leaders. We would need you to be part of that, to go, hey, we have a meeting once a quarter, twice a month, not twice a month, but every 2 months, and say, hey, we have a class that for people to go, hey, I want to get in the community group. And I think basing them off of big events could be good, to go, hey, you flow from the pastor's breakfast. Next up, let's get you in the group. So that's one piece. And then how do we enhance that? How do we make it less classroom-like? Because I think that's where a lot of people were. They're going, hey, I don't want to be trained. I don't want to be taught. What I want to do is I want to experience. So they come in and experience the church and community group and then get right into one. And we make that the easiest way we can. Then the other side would be Discover Serving, making an easy entry point for serving. What goes along with that is I gave you guys out an assessment called the SHAPE assessment. And so this one, I know we've given out a lot of assessments in the past where we gave them out and then we didn't do anything with them, mostly because some of them some people gave me some feedback and was like, I didn't understand this at all. And we go, well, then we definitely don't want to send this out to a new person. And my leaders are going, I didn't understand what these numbers meant. And I went, I don't understand what these numbers meant. Let's just do away with that one. And so now we finally found one to go, I think this one makes sense because we can understand what the personality is. We can understand what some of the passions are. We can understand how do you analyze some spiritual gifting? And then from there, what we would like to do is once we can get that into everybody's hand, then every community group, every ministry lead, every person in this church, if they were to take that assessment, we would have one sheet that kind of analyzes who that person is. Now, is it all accurate? No. But it's at least a starting point to go, and it's amazing how many main leaders we had that we went, I had no idea that was your passion. Yeah, I've never wanted to, I didn't, like some people said, I've always served in kids, that's why I've done it. But that's not really my passion. That's kind of sad, right? I mean, the church should be funneling people into their God-given calling, but we never really asked. We just said, hey, we have a need here. They met that need, and we thought that's what they liked, but we never helped analyze it. And so I believe that the SHAPE assessment tool is going to help us as ministry leads and especially as group leaders, because I really see the group leader as being a liaison to saying, hey, if you gave that to your people, you could help marry them up with the ministry leads to get them into ministry, because that's where the disconnect comes. So we get them in a group, and then the group leader is going to have some responsibility to say, hey, have you ever taken this assessment? Well, you need to do that. You ever taken Discover Community? But you ain't got to wait for Discover Community. It may be that, or Discover Serving, it may be they take the class later, but go ahead and give them the assessment, and let's get them going. Because I don't think that needs to hold them back, just jumping through a hoop. So the assessment will be huge. So what I need from you guys is 2 things. One is look at this, write on it, see what else you think's right on it or not right on it. And then with the SHAPE assessment in particular, give us your feedback. Email me with it, talk to me about it, talk to other people about it, collaborate about it, because that's going to be a major part of who we are. And then once we get the new database up and running, we'll have that in there. So a ministry lead, they get a name, they can go, oh, they took the SHAPE assessment. Oh, I see. I'm dealing with a non-people person. Probably don't want to put them out where they say, I'm not passionate. I hate talking to people or I hate talking in front of people. Probably not somebody who wants to teach. You get the idea? hey, I'm an extreme extrovert. Probably not a person that's going to want to push buttons behind the scenes. We've had that before, right? You put somebody behind the soundboard, and you go, where is that person? Well, he's out in the lobby talking to people. He needs to be on the welcome team. You know what I'm saying? He shouldn't be doing sound. He can't. He gets distracted because he loves people, which is great, but he's not paying attention to that component. Does that make sense? So that helps us get the person in the right place at the right time, and otherwise we're fighting against their natural gifting. So hopefully that makes sense. And then the reason why I drew the flow chart is to say all the ministries in our church. And I don't know if this is true right now, and that's okay if it's not, but we want to get there, is to say all the ministries are there to support this vision. If they don't support this vision, we need to ask a question: why do we have them? And we might have to it might be a very hard move to say, this doesn't accomplish this, then I'm afraid it lacks integrity, meaning the integrity is that it's not doing what we said we're trying to accomplish. Now, we can change the vision, or we can change that, but you can't do both. And it could be that it's a very valid ministry that needs to be underneath a different organizational head, if that makes sense. A parachurch organization, all kinds of things. But if it's not supporting doing this, we're not accomplishing the mission, and we're not putting the money towards the vision that God has given us to do. And so that's why it's so important that we get this right. Remember, we say we start with why, we start with the end in mind. We need to get this correct. Now, I'm not saying this is correct yet. This is just a sketch. So what I'd like you guys to do is take this home, pray over it, think about it, analyze it. Feel free to share it with other people. This is not private. Just look at it and say, is that our vision? What's missing? If there's something missing, tell me what's missing. It may be that not all the ministries are here, but we feel like they might fall under these umbrellas, okay? And your ministry might fall under there. So don't think we left you out. We just, I couldn't go, all the ministries, they all fit under one of these, if that makes sense. So pray about that and think about it. And if there's something I'm missing, let me know, and we can have conversations, and I'm sure we might spend some more time dialoguing and brainstorming on it. Does that make sense? Yes, sir. Yes. These would be main headers for ministry. So all the ministries would probably fall under one of these headers, if that makes sense. No, it would just be consolidating some of the ministries under one heading. It just makes it easier, because if I listed all the ministries we had on this side, it would have to be more than one page. So I just made it easier, if that makes sense. Like, for instance, James works video work. That falls under creative arts. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
We took that shape assessment, right?
Yep.
You've got all that.
I've got all that. Nope, you don't have to do it.
We do that for our group.
You will. We're going to do that as a church coming up, but I don't want you to do it quite yet. What I want to do first is to get all the input, because I'd rather not give out an assessment and then turn around and say, yeah, we didn't like that portion. Can everybody take it again? You don't want to do that.
I was surprised by that.
And we want to have everybody ready, because here's the problem. Once we do the shape assessment, you have to be ready for them. And everybody says, I need volunteers, but sometimes we give people volunteers and they're not quite ready for them, and then the volunteer goes, I'm ready to serve, and they go, I don't have a place for you. We have to make sure we know what we're doing when we ask for that, or else we could get in a big mess.
I've taken several of these assessments before through the work group.
Mm-hmm.
And I was surprised, because I only had been several years. I was surprised at how I had changed in some areas. That I'm not as driving as I used to be.
Yeah.
Competitive. I really enjoyed it. Because
Nice.
It taught me something about me that I probably didn't recognize about myself. Thank you for that.
No, thank you for that. I appreciate you guys and everybody participated. I really appreciate it. If you hadn't taken it yet, please do. And then the other thing I'd like you to do is really, if you got input on it, let me know. Because I know a lot of times we don't say that. But if you have something you're going, I just didn't want to say anything, please don't do that. Now's the time. If you want to change something, now would be the time. Any other questions on this? Is that about the direction we're going in? Might take you some time to think about that. So take it home, think about it, make sure, hey, does that fit? If it doesn't, then let's talk about it and let's change it. Let's get it going. And that way, when we talk to somebody, because what we want is we want a simple vision flow that we could explain to anybody, because otherwise they're not going to understand what we're doing. We do the same thing with our service. We go, hey, why do we do our service the way we do it? Very important that we understand. Because once we can explain it, then people can get behind it. If they don't, they're going to look at it and go, I don't know what you're trying to do. But if they understand it, then it's very good, and I think God can use that. So take a look at it and see what you think. So what I want you to do now is this, is we're going to plan on doing a church survey. Just 10 easy questions. And so what I got is I got a New Branch Community Church survey right here. And I've got 2 of them. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you just to take just a few minutes and fill out one, okay? And the other one I'd like you to take home with you and just think about, is there anything you'd like to change? Is there any questions you'd like to ask? Is there any whatever you'd like on here, you can write it down and we'll take all your input. But so just use one, fill out one, and do another one. Because a lot of times once you fill it out yourself, you'll know better how it works. Does that make sense? What's that? Yeah, put your name on it. No, I'm just playing. You don't have to. You can put your name on it or don't put it on it. So here's what I want to know. Tell me a little bit about is there anything on there? And Sandy, can you write this down? I'm so sorry. I couldn't read my writing, so I'm gonna have you write it. Okay, so what did you think about the questions on the survey? Anything missing? Too long? Too short? What do you guys think? What is your overall impression of it? The survey? For a church-wide survey, because like what I want to do is I want to be able to put something out to the church to get input from everybody. Do you think that would be a good form to use, or is there something else? Oh yeah, no, we'll send it home with them. We didn't do it for you guys. Anyway, I didn't know how long it would take. You can take your time with it. What I was really thinking is to give them maybe a couple weeks, and then have it the last time, if they didn't turn it in, they would have them here and they could fill them out right here if they wanted to, but send them home and give them maybe like 3 weeks. Well, they'll throw it aside, but we can provide another one for them. That's what we usually do. Put it in the bulletin for 3 weeks and say, we're turning in the survey next week. Everybody bring it back. If you didn't bring it back, you can take time and fill it out at the end of the service. If you don't fill it out, we don't care about your input. How's that? You had your chance. Oh, I will say it. Yes, sir. Okay. Okay. You mean like multiple choice? Like. Okay. Okay, so that's the other question. Do you think it's better to have it anonymous or not anonymous? Anonymous, so you can be a little bit more honest? Okay. Feel convicted about it, put your name on it. No, I'm just playing now. That's what I do. No, but I do agree. Sometimes you can get that. You can get some bogus ones. People like to joke, believe it or not. Yeah. Okay, so what other questions on there? Like, is there any other questions on there that you see that you would say, hey, what else would you might want included? Anything we didn't ask, or anything we asked that you say, I don't think we need to have that, or it's redundant, or I know it's 10 questions. I don't know if that's too long or too short. Are you in a community group? Okay. Write them down. Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Yep. That's good. What do you think it would be okay to add? Because I was looking at that, that you would be willing to participate in. Because there's a lot of people that would go, oh, I know some great needs in the community. Oh, no, I wouldn't participate in that. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, okay, I'm sorry. Right, yeah, sure. Right, yeah. Oh, no, no, no. I just meant sometimes I've had, and I wasn't down in it. I was just asking just if we could add clarity only because sometimes people are thinking, oh, here's a great project for the rest of the church to do, but I wouldn't do it, neither would anybody else. So we go, you don't have passionate for it. You know, like, so I want events that we would say, hey, if everybody wants to sign up for it, they would actually do it. I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe I'm wrong. That's good. There you go. Perfect. Yep, that's good. I like that. That's good, Carol. That's super good. Right. Yeah, and I mean, we wouldn't be necessarily, like, if they write that on there, we don't have to necessarily contact them, is my thought, off the top of my head, as much as we're going, I just didn't want people to put down, hey, I really think we need to fund World Vision, and they don't have any reason to want to contribute to it. So it's kind of like, hey, I want you putting down service projects. Hey, are you willing to participate? And if we get a whole bunch of them that say, I think this is great, but I wouldn't participate in it, or I can't participate in it, that might not be something we can do. That's more what I was thinking of, because I do think the honesty might be, and it might be we have to do more than one survey, you know, to go, hey, that's too much for one. But I'm thinking one sheet. Does that sound right to everybody? One sheet, not more than that. Yeah. Yep. That's what we were thinking. Maybe put it in there for 3 weeks, something like that, and then at the last one, we put it in there again and say, hey, today's the day. If you haven't filled it out, fill it out now. And you're not part of this church anymore. No, I'm just playing. I'm kidding. We wouldn't say that. We wouldn't say that. We could even do it at Easter if we want to. I mean, like, we could send it out for the people that come at Easter. We have more people. Yes, sir. Sure. Yep. And how could we improve them? You know, like you said, we could add on to it if you want. Mm-hmm. Yeah, please do, because that was hard for me to understand. Like I said, we were putting this together. I wanted to do this way in advance, but unfortunately, I was putting this together last night, and so I just put down the things that I thought would be good. But I would love to reframe the wording on that. So go ahead, if you got it wording, say it. If you don't, think about that, because I'd like to get that right. But the idea would be is we may want to have a message series. Like, I know some of them have one called "You Asked for It," and it could be a collection of things that people have asked that we've just never answered, you know, because like we try to hit a broad range of topics, and I pray and God lays on my heart. But I would like to do a series where we could go, hey, here's something that you guys have been asking about. Maybe we've never answered those questions, and we could do that. Or bring somebody else in to do it. Excellent. Yeah, you can write that down if you don't want. Yes, ma'am. This is a believer filling out the survey versus not. This is somebody who's been part of the church from day one and not. Does that make sense? So in other words, somebody that comes in from the beginning, we could do some statistical studies that says, here's what a believer wrote down versus somebody that just came to faith in Christ. That might be a big difference. And that might have a lot to do with, hey, are we aiming for unconnected people that are brand new to the faith, or the mature believer that's saying, we want to have college level seminary courses offered? Not to say that's bad, but it might be that's not our niche, you know. Mm-hmm. Yep. We would know, hey, how long have they been in the faith? Or they say they are. And we trust that they're answering them honestly. Who knows? Most of the time people do. What do you mean? Oh, 7. Oh, instead of 7, put beginning. That'd be fun. We can do that. Oh. Gotcha. Okay, we can do that. Good point. That's a good point. I never thought of that. Very good input. So take those home, look at them, think about them, and if you you know, whatever you come up with, let me know, and we'll be working on that in the next couple weeks. And I'm thinking between now and Easter, whether we put those out to the community group first, and then we'll keep utilizing it, I think would be really helpful. Do y'all think that would be helpful to have? I think we'll find out a lot of information that we'll want. And then maybe we could do that maybe like once a year, and we get a lot of input from the church. Because we want to not get so much where we don't know what's going on. I think it's time to let people have some input. That sound good? Okay, so the last thing I have, and I'll finish up in less than 10 minutes, or actually I have more than 10 minutes, so that's awesome, is the goals for this year. And I know we're not going to cover all of it right now, but what I'd like to do is just kind of give you a few of mine, and then I'd like you guys to pray and think and share, and maybe at our next meeting we can even come up with some of these things together, is to say, you know, not just for 2018, but where we're going strategically, to say, hey, and I really think some real solid, measurable goals is where we want to be at. So not just high principle goals. We kind of got that. That's what the vision chart was for, to say that's what we wanted to do. Now we're getting practical to say here's the bite-sized piece that we want to take off of it now. So here's a couple of the goals that I wrote down for this year just in praying about. And you guys can say, hey, yeah, I think that's good or it's not good. So I actually had 3. The first one was this, is to be able to be at 2 services by Easter this year. So we have some people that aren't able to attend because we don't have 2 services. And so on at least Easter Sunday, if not before, we want to aim for 2 services, which means our ministry leads will have to get together on that to say, hey, how did that work? Some of them weren't here tonight. Charles Brock had the flu, so the kids ministry will be a big one to say, hey, do we have the volunteers? Can we support that? But I'd like to kind of push towards that, because sometimes if you don't write it down as a goal, it just kind of gets pushed down the line. So that's one. The other one is to double our community group network this year. That may not be obtainable. I don't know. You guys pray about it, but I think that wouldn't be a bad thing to say. If community group is at the apex, if our church truly is going to grow, we're going to need some more groups to do it. And so in order to accomplish that, I put a few small bullets down to develop and enhance the Discover community class. Because I think that could be a big help to say, hey, we got to put some real effort into going, hey, it's not just coming to listen to a lecture, but going, hey, how do we enhance that and make it something that people, you know, would just die to come to, you know? Because it's a big invite in making sure, hey, it's very relational, but also very fun. Because otherwise, a new person's not just going to go, I'm going to go do what? Meet community group leaders, and maybe, but we just haven't had a lot of people just flock to it, because we have a lot of people sitting and they just haven't done it. So I just want to think about, hey, how can we enhance that? You guys can think about it. A clear plan for support and development for our group leaders. We have not spent a lot of time, and I'm sorry for that. That wasn't the intention. And we appreciate you guys more than I can tell you, but we want to spend some time, you know, what you guys need, and I might need some help understanding what is the best way we can help support you guys. I mean, you know, care support, pastoral support, you know, whatever it is, but we want to start going in that direction. If community group is at the apex of who we are, we really got to enhance, you know, the training, development, the support amongst yourselves, you know, and we're going to look at that. You know, do we need coaches? Do we need support mechanisms? Do we need some care mechanisms to say, hey, we don't want to put all the burden on you, but support for our community group network and our leaders. The other thing would be is this, a clear plan for training and empowering new group leaders. So I think what is at the essential piece to the growth of our church, the real growth of our church, the number that really matters, isn't the attendance on Sunday morning. That is the big funnel. So if we don't have the Sunday morning, it won't be able to funnel into groups. But if we don't have the groups to go to, we really shouldn't be inviting people. Jesus did not call us to make converts. He called us to make disciples. And they're only made in community groups. They can't be made in this room. It doesn't work that way. Knowledge isn't going to get you there. I can tell you that now. Groups are. That means the only way we can truly grow is to have more leaders. And we have to identify them and train them and develop them, and we have to come up with that. And so I know that's a big task, but I think that's a big piece of how we would double in size. Because one thing is for sure, the lid on our organization is the leadership. Yeah. It's a family for those that do. Yep. Absolutely. So that for me personally would be a big goal. And I want you guys to pray about it. If it's not a good goal, then we can sit down and talk about it and analyze it, and we'll have time to talk, because I don't want to just set these in motion. But I really think that's one of them that I thought would be good for me. So the group leaders would be another side of it. And then double the people serving in their calling. That's just a goal that I set. I don't know if double is accurate, but that's where I'd like to be. I think the things that will help us do that is implementing the SHAPE assessment to go, hey, if we can get the people assessed, then we'll know where they're gifted at. And that's one more step getting them close to where God's called them to be. Develop and enhance the Discover Serving class, I think would be another piece to it, and a clear plan for support and development for our ministry leads, and a clear plan for training and empowering new ministry leads. Each person should be doing it with the goal of going, hey, if this church is going to double in size, and by the way, last year, we were that close to doing it. We were at about 150 before, and last Easter we had 320-some people. And then the attendance went down. I can tell you why. Because of these areas. Because you're going, this is the infrastructure that has to be in place. If we don't, then here's what we saw happen. We'll swell up to 320, and then we will crush our ministry leads. Because we'll go, how many services can you do? Can you do 3? Can you do 4? Can you do 5? Can't. Because you can't support it with one person doing it. It has to be team, which means we have to empower other leaders. And that's something that we all have to learn together. And I don't know that I'm all that good at it either. So we're going to learn it together. And I think God's going to help us, because that's what it's really going to be about. Not only that, but I think the harvest, what we need is going to be found in the harvest. So if we grab them and we understand, hey, how do you identify diamond in the rough, and how do you take that person and develop them, that's really what it's going to be all about. So a portion of our time is going to have to be set aside not only to do what we're doing, but to develop another person. And if we're too busy to develop another person, we're going to have to take a step back and slow it down, and even not allow it to grow for a season while we learn how to do that, because otherwise we're going to get there and we're going to keep hitting the same barrier. And I know where the barrier is. It's right at the 200 mark. And the reason it's there is that's how many people that our current leaders can handle. And the only way to grow is we got to get more of them in, develop more of them to do the works of ministry. And I think we're going to do it. I think we got the team to do it. And now, and I'm a big piece of the barrier, and I'm ready to change. So, or you can fire me or whatever you want to do, then it won't be my problem. But I'm not planning on being fired, because I love this church, and I think you love this church. And I can't tell you how grateful I am for what you guys have been doing. I think we have some incredible stories of connection. The very chart that I just showed you, we have some real life testimonies of people that were unconnected and all alone. And now they're fully devoted, functional followers of Christ. They're not perfect, but they're functioning followers of Jesus Christ. And if I had the time, I could sit here and tell you just 10 people I've talked to in the last week that their life was like this before they came to this church. And their life is like this now. This morning, a family that I've been praying for my whole life, or my whole adult life, they came up and said, Groups has made all the difference in the world to us. And they're functioning. They're living the Christian life. And you guys have made that happen. Every person that has touched and made this possible has been a piece of that. That's the true vision of this church. It's still not about a crowd. It's about saying, hey, can we continue to do that? And I really think it's awesome. So I thank you guys for being part of it. I really think it's amazing. Yeah, go ahead. sometimes we look to the next hill, we miss where God's blessed us at. And I don't want us to miss that. And I think I can be guilty, and I'm glad you brought that up, Virginia, because I can be guilty of looking to the future, and sometimes people think that they take that as I'm not appreciative of, and I'm not. I mean, I hope you know that. I'm so grateful for this church. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. You guys are amazing. In a full parking lot for somebody in Zuna, I'm not sure what that I'm playing. means about 5 cars. I'm just messing with you. That's awesome. No, and we've seen it. I mean, and that's a true story. I mean, we've seen the people out there and brand new people connecting, and you guys are doing it, and I am so grateful for you guys. I know that wasn't a lot of time to talk about the goals that you have. We'll probably talk about that next time. But think about that. Write some down. Email them to me. And maybe the next time we can brainstorm some more, you know. Yes, ma'am. No, go ahead. You got 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Is there any chance that we can get all the community groups together for something like this?
Sure.
I don't know the other community groups, and I don't think the people in my group know some of the other groups, just so that we know what our groups look like.
I'd love to. I mean, I think it wouldn't hurt to do that, and I don't think it would be bad to get some of their input in a meeting like that. I think I'd like to see about having and figuring that out. And so what I kind of think is if we can get the next meeting, and then it brings us into March, but maybe by then we can start to do some of that, because we're just trying to get our bearings on some of the stuff going on. Yep. That would be good. Yeah. Yeah. Great event. Yeah. Is that right? I didn't know that. Hey, amazing. That's awesome. Yep. And the teens are a group. I mean, we consider them just as much a community group as us.
The way we worked it before is we would get a suite, they have food there, and basically we pay like usually the group leaders free, pastors are free, and then group members have a reduced. I think it'd be as cheap as like $10. So, and maybe if you have people that you want to invite that are mean, maybe you're trying to get them to come to the church, or maybe you're not even charging them to come to the church.
Nice.
We've had over 100. So, and I think they got different size suites. You can't go to the show, you can do it at St. Thomas. They do have them set up. I'll research.
Yeah, if you do, that would be awesome. Yeah, let's figure that out. I think people would like that, probably, right? All right, thank you guys very much. Let me pray for you before you go. And
We can get into that real quick. I'm just curious, because you might have talked about this before in other meetings, but when you went and visited the groups last year,
uh-huh.
I just wanted to hear what the impact was. You're talking about building the groups, right?
Yep.
So what was the impact of Pastor John actually coming and visiting the groups? Was it a good thing? Was it? I went to groups, they talked about it for quite a while.
Yes, we loved it.
Yes, I did.
I know you can't do it that often, but still just come into a group and family members get to know you, and even Maurice will come, like,
Yeah.
personal. And that just shows that you're putting your money in your mouth when it comes to the
I would love, okay, so that's one thing you guys can think about when we talk about goals in the survey. You don't have to answer questions that are just on the survey. If there are things that I can do, and that's where each ministry league comes in for the goals for this year, if there are things I can do or this church can do to help facilitate your role, please tell me. Because, like, we don't mean to, but we get very busy doing other things. And if community group is at the apex, you guys, you have, I mean, I can do what you want. I mean, I can't come every week. but I mean, you want question and answer. You want me to come visit the group. You want me just to hang out. You want to come here and do something all together where they, you know, maybe they want to have a question and answer time, or they want to do some kind of thing. I can do whatever you want. I mean, that's what I'm here for. And I mean that. I mean, that's my job, and I want to do it. I mean, like, it's not a job. It's a passion. So if it's not helpful, you got to tell me that too, though. Okay. So if I come and you're like, that really didn't help us, because I can be distracting too. So if you didn't know. So thank you guys very much. Let me pray for you, and then we'll get you out of here. Father God, we come before you tonight, and Lord, I thank you so much for this time we had together as leaders. And God, I thank you more for we're starting to get beyond John just talking the whole time. And we're starting to hear the input from the leaders here. And then hopefully, God, we're going to start hearing from our congregation, because this church is more than a personality. And God, you know I never intended to just be a personality that just kept talking or whatever. That's not the intention here. But sometimes it turns into that because we get busy or we do whatever, or we just have to make decisions or whatever. And so, God, now I think that we're starting to become, Lord, it's really the teamwork that makes the dream work. And I look at the people in this room, and they have earned the right to be leaders. I didn't make them a leader. You did. You called them out. And, Lord, they have a heavy, heavy responsibility. And I know that because I'm a leader too. And the heavy responsibility is, God, it's not just an arrogant thing. It's a heavy responsibility because, God, we represent people. And, Lord, you called us to help shepherd them, even though we're not the good shepherd, you are. But you've called us out and said, hey, I'm going to give you a piece of my gift to help these people. And Lord, we care about people. We love people. Sometimes we hurt people. Sometimes people hurt us. And I'm just praying, Lord, and I do believe this, that if Satan's coming after us, he's going to come after the leaders first, because we're going to take the brunt of it. And some of us have, Lord. Some of us have been smacked upside the head. And then we just have to remember that, God, we stand in the power of the Holy Spirit of God. And I'm just praying for each one here, Lord, that apart from all the planning, apart from all the words, apart from our words, that what conveys, Lord, is the power of the Holy Spirit of God in our lives. And that you give us the ability to do what you're calling us to do, that we can accomplish not our mission, but yours, which is to reach the one while there's still time. Lord, make us that kind of church. And I pray a blessing over each person here. And they'll never know, God, that the greatest moments in my life have been done with this group of people. That, Lord, what I didn't see coming when we started this church is that the greatest joy in the whole world is doing life with these people right here. I thank you for each one of them. We just pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.